up, we have a gentleman that I have followed for quite some time. Excuse me. I know social media has been mentioned in terms of kind of growing your network and really learning, keeping your finger on the pulse in terms of what's new, what's exciting. And I've really appreciated that from this gentleman that I'm about to introduce. Next up, we have a leader, an educator, a founder, and the cyber mentor. Mr. Heath Adams is here with us for a talk on Before You Accept That Offer, really approaching this landscape from the lens of OSINT. So, Heath, welcome to the floor. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Over to you, my friend, whenever you're ready. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Brad, and thank you for everybody for having me. Really appreciate being here. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes for running a conference like this. Do not envy you guys. I really appreciate you having me and all the hard work you've done leading up to all this. So, again, my name is Heath Adams. Today, we're going to be talking about before you accept that offer, and we're going to be really discussing what it's like to interview your potential employer and to look up your potential employer and to know if that job that you're getting offered is actually going to be a good fit. And was having conversation with Brad, didn't know exactly what we wanted to do a talk on. He gave me some ideas, said, hey, it's a younger audience. You guys are maybe getting your first jobs, and I just don't want you to make some of the same mistakes that I made going into it. So, with that, I'm going to do a really quick Who am I? I'm a husband first. I do love teaching. I'm a car guy. If you ever want to talk cars with me, I'd love to. I've moved into animal hoarder status as well. From our side, we've got four dogs, we've got two cats, and we've got an axolotl here named Esteban. He only has one brain cell, but he is adorable. My background has taken quite a few different journeys. I started in business as an accountant, and then I went into the army. I went on and became a hacker. I actually worked in help desk and went into network engineering, and then eventually became a pen tester. That led to me founding a few different things. Most famously is probably a company called TCM Security. We are a consultancy. We do a lot on the ethical hacking, penetration testing side, and we're also a training academy. We're well known for having certifications. Probably most well known is the PMPT certification, and we've done quite a bit in the field in the space. Counter to that, we founded a company called Breachpoint. That's a company that does pretty much the exact opposite of TCM security. It does managed services, managed SOC, all the defensive things. And then there's a organization, 501(c)(3) called VeteranSec. If any of you are military veterans, worth checking out. It's a nonprofit helping cybersecurity or veterans get into cybersecurity. If you're interested in following me on socials, pretty much only on LinkedIn. And then I have YouTube, The Cyber Mentor. We're getting really close to 1 million subscribers on YouTube. So if you would be so kind to subscribe, that would be awesome as well. Let's talk about some key stats before we get into this conversation today. And so key stat number one is 66% is the job satisfaction rate as of 2024 in cybersecurity, and that's actually going down. And with that, if you pair that with 64%, this is the number of cybersecurity professionals that were planning to leave their job in 2024. So what does that say? We've got at least 34% of people that are unhappy, and you got another 30% on top of that, that even though they're not unhappy, they still want to leave their job. And so you've got a lot of movement going on in cyber, and there are a lot of opportunities to be out there, be interviewing, be potentially taking new job opportunities, right? And so we want to make sure that from our side as the employee, potential employee, that we're doing our due diligence and our justice and we're finding the right organization that does the best for us. One more statistic here is that there's a 20% turnover rate in cybersecurity. This is actually really high for a niche field. That means 1 in 5 people will leave their job in cyber in a year, right? So with that, if you want to compare, something like the field of just IT in general is 11%. So let's just call it 10%. So 1 in 10 people leave. So it's almost double, right? Basically. And so the turnover rate in cyber is very high. The job satisfaction's not that great. And a lot of this is contributing to, I mean, there's burnout. There's not so great employers. People aren't really happy with their job or the company, and so you get these things building all into one. And one more stat that is interesting, and just from our side, this is our turnover rate at TCM Security over 6 years. It's 2%. We've had two people quit in 6 years, or two people give notice in 6 years. And so um, from our side of things, like I've been the employee, and as the employer, I've wanted to make sure that we build and hire and find the right people and put the culture in place that it was basically like anti all the things that I didn't like as I was learning and going through. So I'm kind of share that knowledge today of what you can do to kind of avoid those pitfalls. And you can kind of find an organization that puts you into that realm of being in that 2% as opposed to being in the 20, right? You want to find an employer that you can stick with long term, that can build your career up and can make you successful as well. And so that's the goal for today. So these aren't in any particular order, but these are just kind of the order that we're going to discuss things today. We're going to talk about OSINTing your future employer. What does that look like? What are some valuable sites that are out there? What are some green flags, some red flags? We'll talk about interviewing your future employer. A lot of us go into interviews and we get interviewed, but really we should be interviewing the interviewer, and we don't do that very often, not often enough. And a part of that too can be going out and talking to current and former employees of the organization, getting a feel from them and what it's like to work at the organization. That's important. And ultimately, we want to try to find a company that matches our values while also knowing our worth. And so, what is it that we want? What do we value in our career? It could be like work-life balance. It could be career growth. It could be working for a specific industry or organization. And there's so many different things, but we'll talk about these more in depth as we go. And so we're going to start with the OSINTing your future employer. Now, there are review websites out there. Glassdoor is probably the most famous review website that you can find in terms of like going out and looking at company reviews. People will go onto Glassdoor, especially like the larger the company, the more reviews you're going to find. But you'll find information on what it's like to work there, what are the pros and the cons, what are the benefits like, do they approve of the CEO or not, and overall, good vibes, bad vibes. And that gives you a lot of information. Some people may be unhappy because of work-life balance, for example, but that may be something that you don't care about so much. Like you're willing to work more for the right employer. And so that doesn't maybe match your values. So you have to look at the reviews and really find out, hey, what works for me? Blind is another website that's actually out there, and it's really good. It's good for salaries, but it's also good for reviews as well. It's not as great as Glassdoor, but it's just another alternative. You'll find information on Reddit. You can even find information through Google, which I'll show you. LinkedIn is a treasure trove of information. If you have premium, which does it costs money, but if you do have premium, you get even more intel on a company. Like you can go to the company page and you can see who's worked at the company. You can see the average tenure of an employee, how much of this company growing. You can look at like who the notable alumni are, who the executives are, and find out a ton of information. So like you should be going and looking at a company and seeing, okay, who's at the company, how long are they staying, who's leaving this company, and when are they leaving the company? Like if you're seeing a bunch of people left the company in 2024, that could be signaling a red flag as well. So you might want to dig a little bit deeper in that. Where are the former employees going? Are they all going, yeah, off to the same places? Are they going into different industries? Because that could be an indicator as well. Like if you're seeing a bunch of people going and they were pen testers and they're all bouncing and they're leaving and not going into pen testing, that would be a red flag for me because it means maybe they're not getting nurtured or they're getting turned off from the field because that company is not doing a good job of nurturing their pen testers. I would also research things like layoffs. Has the company had layoffs in the past? Are they having any layoffs currently? What is their funding status like? A lot of companies are private equity backed. So are they getting funded? Is that why they're growing? How fast are they growing? There could be pros and cons to that as well. Any critical lawsuits, anything that's out there about the organization that could be negative, you want to know that too. And then lastly, you kind of want to look at the leadership and the management backgrounds. How often is leadership getting changed in and out? Is the founder of the company still there? Is it like a private equity company? Are they just swapping people in and out? Management background, does the manager have actual experience to be running the team that you're going to be on? That could be critical as well. And I've got a bunch of green flags and red flags down here, but I mean, green flags, for example, if you've got a clear mission and values, that's very good. And it's one thing to say it; it's another thing to do it. And you can find out through your research if a company's mission and values, and they actually are actually believing in doing and following through with those. You can find that out through social media and through just basic Googling, honestly. If they've got a good reputation online, transparent leadership, if they're actively contributing to the community, all good things. There are other companies like I don't want to just tout TCM security here. Like in the pen test space, I can think of like Black Hills is a good company. Like you see them, they have clear mission and values. They're out there, they're contributing to the community, they're doing really good things. Trusted Sex, another really good one, right? These organizations that are out there, and again, people talk so positively about them, and everybody wants to go work there because they know they're good companies to work for because it's all out there. People are talking about it. Red flags, I think obviously is high turnover. If you're seeing a lot of people going to a company and then leaving within a year or after a year or two, that could be a red flag. If they've got any sort of like public complaints that are out there on social media, that would be a red flag. Again, weak leadership experience or weak manager background could be a red flag as well. And so employees do talk, and like with smaller companies, like TCM Security is not a massive enterprise by any means, but with a smaller company, you might not see people talking about it on Glassdoor. Glassdoor is more for bigger organizations. But if you go on to something like Google, and this is just a basic search, but if you go and say like, what's it like to work at TCM Security? And I just put site linkedin.com, but you could do Reddit, you could do X or Twitter, any of the social media sites and just try to find information that's out there. Just do a little bit of Google foo and you might find some interesting things. And then I just went and took a bunch of pictures of screenshots from employees that are talking about enjoying working at the company. So if I was doing research on TCM, I want to know if it was good, and all these things pop up, that would be a green flag, right? So like, hey, I'm having a great time working, working at TCM. Andrew's another one said, let me tell you, it's just as good as it's seen from the outside. Here's two more employees talking about how they really love working at TCM. And finding this when I was searching through putting this presentation together, just like melted my heart all over again. But these are the things that you want to see and find when you're researching a company. You don't want to find the opposite, right? And it's not that difficult to go out there and find the opposite. I'm trying to share positive vibes, not like drag any companies or anything. But if you went and looked for the alternative, you could find it. So employees do talk and they will put their experiences out on social media. And if you're finding a lot more positive than negative, it's a pretty good sign. And so moving on to the next idea and concept is you should be interviewing your future employer. I have been in the interview side too many times to get to the end of the interview and say, "Do you have any questions for us?" And somebody just says no. And you should always have questions, even if it's a couple. And there's a statistic here that I found when doing some research, and I believe it. It's 38% of candidates fail their interview because they did not ask good questions. They might not be asking any questions at all. And so there are some critical questions you should ask, but there's also questions that you should ask around what your values are, right? Like if I value work-life balance, I might say, how many hours a week would I be expected to work at this job on average? If I were looking at benefits, what sort of training budget do you have? What does a benefit package look like? And that could be like PTO or health insurance or whatever it might be. Is there going to be a training period during onboarding? What does my career growth look like? And a really good question is really like, what happened to the last person? And that's something where you say that, and it's because, hey, did the last person get promoted from within? Did they leave? Did they go somewhere else? Are they still on the team? Are you just expanding? It gives you some information. You can kind of get the reaction and watch the interviewer as like, are they squirming? Or are they being like, straight shooter, transparent with you? Body language does a lot as well. And so for me, like this, when I was first getting my first pen test job ever. I was going through, I had found a company, I was in the last stages of the interview, and basically it was just meet with the manager. I met with everybody else, basically meet with the person that's going to be your boss. And the company was offering really good money. They were offering great benefits, all the things that I valued. But I also value as a person, I value work-life balance. And I said, I asked how many hours a week would I be expected to work? And they said probably 55 hours a week on average. And that's a lot for somebody that at the time was newly married and really wanted to focus more on family and friends more so than having to dedicate my life to work. And another thing that I asked was, what would be the training during the onboarding period? And he said, there's not going to be any training. It's literally sink or swim. And if you're somebody that's coming in, me personally, I was going in as a junior pen tester. I wanted my handheld. I wanted to be able to go in and actually experience the job and get some training. And I didn't want to be 55 hours sink or swim. You got to make or break on your first job. That could easily just set me up for failure. So I actually turned that job down because it didn't align with the values that I had. Moving on, it is perfectly fine to talk to current and former employees. I would start honestly with former employees. You should ask people that have been there and done that. If you can find former employees, they're way more likely to talk. If somebody's coming to me, I'm just trying to put myself in somebody else's shoes. But if I'm sitting there and somebody comes to me and I'm working at an employer and they're like, "What's it like working at your employer?" and I don't know you, I might think that you're like a spy, right? I'm not probably not going to give you the best information, but say, "Oh, it's great working here." You'll find better information from people that have worked at that company rather than people that currently do. And I would avoid reaching out directly to somebody that's on the team or the manager and asking them what it's like. It may seem invasive to them, like you're actually going out and you're trying to get your way into the company before you've been accepted in. And so what I would do is I would really work on your networking for jobs in general. For all advice, if you could take one thing away, it's like go out there and network because your network can connect you to those people that are actually working at that company. And if you've got a mutual connection with somebody that could put you in touch, then that person at the company may talk more candidly with you and be more transparent. And then you can get a feel for what it's like to work at a team or on that team. And so really the overall concept here is like, hey, OSINT's only going to get you so far. But if you talk to the people that actually have like walked the walk and have been there, you're going to find out a lot more information and you can look for patterns in how they talk. They're all kind of saying it's nice, but, or, it feels like they're giving you a little bit of fluff. You can suss that out a lot of the times. Moving on for your values. So you've heard me mention values a bunch of times already, talk about fit as well. What drives you is something that is important. What is it purpose, for example? Like it's hard to know exactly what your purpose is, especially at a younger age. But like what maybe drives you? Is it learning? Is it flexibility? For some people, it's I really want to go and I want to learn as much as possible. And there are employers that maybe they're not the best employer, like it's not the best place to work. But it is a really good place to go and learn and soak up a bunch of information and then just kind of like lily pad and move on to the next role or position at another company. And some people do that. There's just things that you need to ask is like, what am I looking for in my employer? Is it going to be, is it growth? Is it collaboration? Do you want autonomy? Do you want your handheld? That is going to weigh the decision. For us at TCM, just as an example, our pen testers that we hire pen testers that like to teach because one, we're an educational company. Two, when we sit down with our clients and we do pen tests, we actually let them shadow us and we teach them along the way. So we like to find people that actually enjoy that teaching aspect and like sharing knowledge, and we like those lifelong learners as well. And that finds that it tends to be a really good fit for our organization, our team, and everybody tends to get along and fit the culture a lot better if they do have that same passion and shared culture there. And another thing too is like management style matters a lot. This is true for people that are looking or watching this, and you're going to be a manager someday, or already are. It's very, very easy to mismanage somebody because your management style doesn't fit their management need. For example, military people. Military people actually prefer to be micromanaged. So if they've come from the military, they've been basically micromanaged, they get into the workforce, and then if you're just like hands off completely, the opposite of micromanaging them, they may actually be getting set up for failure. So you need to ask yourself as well, is like, what is the management style of the person that is going to be managing me? Are they a micromanager? Do I enjoy that? Do I like somebody setting up strict times and dates and everything for me? Or am I somebody that just kind of wants to go off and do my own thing? If you are, you probably don't want a micromanager as your manager. The best managers that are out there will flex to you but not all managers are capable of that skill set. So you want to make sure that you're identifying if your manager is going to be good at that or not, and if they fit your management needs and style. So, example here at the bottom, if you're big on growth and learning, but the company tells you sink or swim, kind of like the situation that I was in, it's likely going to be a mismatch and it's not going to work out very well for you. Uh, Last one here is ultimately you need to know your worth. And part of that is knowing your worth for your salary. So I've given some websites here. Levels.fyi is really good. Glassdoor is really good for salaries as well. Blind's another one that I mentioned earlier. They're all good. You should do research into what people in the industry are making. If you can find out historical salary ranges from the company, maybe sometimes a lot more companies are becoming transparent with their job postings. And so they're saying, hey, this is salary range for the position. That's good. Salary is not everything, right? Like if there's a good PTO package, good health benefits, good flexibility, like if other things line up, people may take less salary because they're getting all their other needs met. Um, Honestly, we'd all love to have really good benefits and really good salary, but sometimes there's sacrifices depending on what it is that you want. If you value flexibility, work-life balance, you value the ability to work remote, you may take a little bit less to work remote than to have to drive into an office every day. And so you have to think about again, what is worth it to you? What is your worth? And you should find that. An example of this too is when I was working on help desk, I put a year in help desk. It was time for my annual review. When I first started help desk, I didn't know anything, and from there, I went and got a bunch of certifications. I was just absolute rock star. I probably got 4 or 5 certifications in my first year, and I was crushing it. And so I did all the research of like where should my salary be. I was making 50K a year. I went in there and I had all this data, all this research. I want to make 55K. And the company came back and said the best that we can do is 51 and a half. And so I remember leaving just feeling like I wasn't being valued. I left the call and I went home that night and I was just upset. And I just started applying to jobs out of anger more than anything else. And I got a call back for a job on a network engineering position, and they offered me 80K. And so I wanted 55. I thought my value was 55, and turns out my value was much higher. And so don't sell yourself short. Like if you have that inner feeling that you are worth more than you're getting put in front of you, it's okay to test the waters as well. But you should know your worth going in. You should definitely look up how to negotiate for salaries and look up tactics as well, but be able to stand your ground and know what is the most important to you and your values. Again, salary is not everything. Everything as a complete package and the company could be worth more to you than just the salary. So with that, some final thoughts. Remember, like when you're in an interview, and especially if you've gotten an offer, they're just as lucky to have you as you are to be there, right? It's not that you're lucky to be there. A lot of us in this industry suffer from imposter syndrome. We need to make sure that when we are getting the interviews, we're getting these offers, we're beating out a bunch of people, we're meant to be there, right? And so you are interviewing these companies just as much as they're interviewing you. This is a relationship that you're about to enter into, and you want to make sure that this is a positive relationship for the both of you. Many employers say all the right things, but they don't actually mean it. And so doing your due diligence and going out there and making sure that you are doing your research is going to go a long way because for real, a bad employer can break your career. I have seen people get bad jobs and in this field, and they say, I never want to work in this field again. I'm going to go somewhere else. But a good one can make your career for you as well. If you get an employer that believes in you, believes in your career trajectory, your path, and wants to see you succeed, and it's going to help set you up for that, that could be long-term success for you. So those are things to make sure you take away. That is it for this conversation. That's it for this talk. Again, thanks, Brad and team, for having me. I really appreciated being here, and hopefully you found this valuable. Thank you so much.
Heath, absolutely phenomenal. So much actionable insights that you've shared, and that's something that I've appreciated following your work for several years now through social media and otherwise. And folks in the audience, this is a gentleman that walks the walk. He's sharing with you a lot of this advice in terms of how to interview a potential employer, how to really kind of perform OSINT on the job opportunities that you're looking to go after. And I've seen him really show up in that way on LinkedIn and other platforms, speaking to not just the rainbows and butterflies that come along with being a founder of an organization, but also sometimes when their challenges do present themselves. and really kind of taking that stab and rolling with the punches and using that feedback as opportunities to improve. Um, One thing that I think I really like to highlight is the retention piece here in cybersecurity, and that has become such a kind of critical discussion point throughout a lot of conversations that are happening across HR, across business unit leaders, et cetera. And part of that responsibility does fall on the applicant. And I think the more that you take some of this advice from Heath to heart, the stronger of a position you'll be in, as you take your first day. Um, Last but not least, round of applause for Heath. Not only did he deliver a phenomenal presentation, he just wrapped up his graduate program at Harvard. So congratulations, Heath. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Thank you so much for all you do for our industry. Go check out TCM Security. Certainly, they have a booth set up in the Brella environment, and they have a very strong presence on lots of social media channels. So go give Heath some love. A round of applause for Heath. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate having me.
Have a wonderful afternoon.